Alright, this is the 10-6 notes. So we're going over secants, tangents, and angle measures. So the first part says a line that intersects a circle in exactly 2 points is called and the word we're going to put in there is secant. Okay, so it says the measures of angles formed by secants and tangents are related to intercepted arcs. So the first one, if two secants or chords intersect in the interior of a circle, then the measure of the angle formed is 1/2 the sum of the measure of the arcs intercepted by the angle and its vertical angle. So for this one, okay, it says right in here, the measure of the angle formed is 1/2 the sum of the measure of the arcs intercepted by the angle and its vertical angle. So these are the arcs that we're looking at. So to figure out what x degrees is, you're going to do x is equal to 1/2 the sum of those arcs. So 30 plus 55. So when you do that, you will get 42.5 degrees. Okay. Second part, if a secant or chord and a tangent intersect at the point of tangent C, it says then the measure of each angle formed is 1/2 the measure of its intercepted arc. So for this one, let me change up my color so you can see. Okay, so for this one, it says the measure of each angle formed is 1/2 the measure of its intercepted arc. So looking at y right here, all it is half of this arc. So what you're going to write down for this one is y is equal to 1/2 the measure of that arc, which is 168 degrees. So then you end up getting 84 degrees. Okay, so we have a couple of practice problems here. So for the first one, we have to find the measure of the arc GH. So to find the measure of this arc, you're just going to have to take half of, there's your two arcs you're looking at. So your formula here is going to be, let me zoom in so I have space to write it over off to the side. So you have 45 degrees is equal to half of the sum of those arcs. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call this x over here. So it would be x plus 28. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the half, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So that's how I'm going to get 90 is equal to x plus 28. Subtract 28 from both sides. So we will get x is equal to 62. And don't forget degrees. So the measure of your arc GH is equal to 62 degrees. Okay, number 2. So for number 2, we are trying to find the measure of angle 3. So that's this angle right in here. So to do that, we're just going to have to take half of this arc. So to find the measure of angle 3, all we have to do is 1/2 of 220, and that comes out to 110. So measure of angle 3 is equal to 110 degrees. Okay, number 3. So let me change up my colors again. So for this one, we are trying to find the measure of arc RT. So here's my measure of arc RT. So all we have to do here is take 74 and times that by 2. And whenever you do 74 times 2, you get 148 degrees. So the measure of the arc is 148 degrees. Okay, last one like this, number 4. So for this one, we are trying to find the measure of angle 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this x because I need that angle first because I could find that angle out knowing those two arcs. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the measure of angle x. And to do that, you just take half of the sum of your two arcs, the 90 degrees and 130 degrees. So when I do that, let's see, that's going to be half of 220. So the measure of angle x will give me 110 degrees. But it wants the measure of angle 5. So to find the measure of angle 5, these two angles in here are a linear pair, so they add up to 180 degrees. So 180 minus that 110 will give me the measure of angle 5. So 180 minus 110 will give me 70 degrees. So the measure of angle 5 is equal to 70 degrees. Okay, and then backside, last little piece. So here are the intersections outside of a circle. If secants and tangents intersect outside a circle, they form an angle whose measure is related to the intercepted arcs. If two secants, a secant and a tangent, or two tangents intersect in the exterior of a circle, then the measure of the angle formed is 1/2 the difference of the measures of the intercepted arcs. So this one is a little bit different. Okay, so when they are on the outside, your angles on the outside, you're going to be subtracting here instead of adding. So there's your 3 different scenarios. Okay, whenever you have two tangents on this last one, whenever you have a secant and a tangent, or whenever you have two secants. So those 3 pictures are just the 3 different examples that you can see. So now we're going to go ahead and we are going to find the measure of these angles and these arcs. So this first one, we want to find the measure of angle 1. So that's this angle out here. Okay, so there's angle 1. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to do the same thing as the first page, except since this angle is on the exterior, you are going to subtract your measurements of your intercepted arcs. So here the measure of angle 1 is equal to 1/2 of the difference of your arcs. So I have 80 minus 40. So the measure of angle 1, that is going to be 1/2 of 40, which is 20 degrees. And your answer should always be positive. So if you get a negative answer, that you need to go back and double check your work. Okay, so here the measure of angle 2. So let me change up my colors again. Okay, so I'm trying to find this angle out here. So what you're going to do on this one, your 2 arcs, you have 160 right here and you have 80 right here. So for the measure of angle 2, all it is 1/2 the difference of your 2 arcs, so 160 minus 80. So the measure of angle 2 is equal to 160 minus 80 is 80. 1/2 of that is 40 degrees. So the measure of angle 2 is 40 degrees. All right, number 3, we're trying to find the measure of angle 3. So angle 3 is here on the outside, but here you just have 220 degrees. So you need to figure out what this piece is right here. Well, all you have to do is just 360 minus the 220 degrees, and that will give you 140. So this arc over here is 140 degrees. So to find the measure of angle 3, you just do 1/2 of the difference of your arcs, so 220 minus 140. And whenever you do that, that's 80, so 1/2 of 80, that will give you 40 degrees. Okay, number 4. Here, this one's a little bit different because you're trying to find your arc JP. So we have arc KM and we have the exterior angle here. So for this one, we'll have 20 is equal to 1/2. And I'm just going to call this x for right now. 70 minus x. So to get rid of the 1/2, I'm going to multiply everything by 2. So that'd be 40 is equal to 70 minus x. Okay, so when I subtract 70 from both sides, you'll get negative 30 is equal to negative x. And divide both sides by negative 1 to get x is equal to 30. So the measure of arc JP is equal to 30 degrees. All right, number 5. So this one's a little bit different because if you notice, all you have is your exterior angle out here. You're not given any measures of your arcs. Okay, so to do this problem, what you want to do is you want to call this big one out here on the outside x. So this arc on the inside would be 360 minus x. So this one's going to require just a little bit more work. So you'd have 50 degrees is equal to 1/2 the difference of your two arcs. So it would be x minus 360 minus x. And make sure you put that in parentheses because you have to distribute that negative. So I'm going to actually do 2 steps in one. I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of the 1/2. So there's 100. And then I'm going to distribute that negative. So we'll have x minus 360 plus x. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add 360 to the 100 to get 460. And I'm going to combine those two x's to get 2x. So x would equal to, what is that, 230. But the question wants the measure of arc LN, which is my smaller arc. So all I have to do is 360 minus 230, and that ends up being 130 degrees. So the arc LN is 130 degrees. Okay. All right, last one. This one's not as much work. So let me find a good color for this. All right, so you're trying to find the measure of angle V, which is your exterior angle out here. So you need to know these two arcs. Well, I already have arc XY is 100 degrees. So to figure out NP, all you have to do is add up the other ones to take that away from 360. So whenever I add up these other pieces and take it away from 360, I end up getting, let's see, 70 degrees. So this is going to be 70. So to find the measure of angle V, I'm just going to call this x for right now. So x is going to be equal to 1/2 the difference of my arcs. So 100 minus 70, that's 30. So half of 30 is 15. So the measure of angle V is equal to 15 degrees. All right, and I think, yeah, that's it. So that is your 10-6 notes.